Hello everybody, welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna. I am an acrylic artist. Thank you for stopping in today. If you are new to my YouTube channel, I hope that you will subscribe while you're here, and if at any point you enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. On my channel, I show you many different ways to paint with acrylic paints. It's such a fun medium to work in. I do throw in an occasional mixed media project, but we have lots of fun right here on my channel. Today's lesson is going to be a fun Halloween one. Let's take a look at it. I've titled this one Catwalk. I painted it on a round tray from Hobby Lobby, but you can certainly paint it on any surface that you want. It's just a fun little Halloween one. Just has a different perspective on not only the depth but how things look. It just was a lot of fun. Very minimal colors in this one, and we get to do some fun techniques in it, so it's a lot of fun. I hope you're going to grab your paints. The paints I will be using today are Deco Art Americana acrylic paints. So let's grab our paints and supplies and let's get painting. Alright, we're going to get ready to do a fun Halloween project here, and my surface here is from Hobby Lobby. It's just a metal tray with a wood insert here, and I'm pretty sure I got it 50% off. It's in their wood pile selection. This was originally $18.99, and the wood is just screwed in. I've already removed all of my screws. It's screwed into the back. I've painted the back black and also varnished the back and the edges as well. I first applied a coat of multi-purpose sealer with my 2-inch foam roller. I'll spit my words out here in a minute. And then I lightly sanded it, okay? And then I applied 2 coats of a lamp black to the back and the edges, and then I applied 2 coats of satin varnish with a damp artist sponge. So the back and edges are all done. Multi-purpose sealer, because this is raw wood on here. You don't want to forget this step. Keeps the paint from soaking into the wood. It prepares the wood so the paint sticks to the wood. You don't have to use near as much paint to cover up that wood. Okay, so both sides and the edges got multi-purpose sealer. I think I did 2 coats because I wanted to make sure all of my wood area was covered good. And then on the front, I just applied 1 coat of Gray Sky with my damp 2-inch foam roller. Alright, so I'm going to pop this out of the tray. I've already put my line drawing on here. So we are good to start painting this line drawing right on this surface right here. I just put some basic lines on here. My moon shape, it'll get covered up a little bit, and then my horizon line and my fence here. Alright, so let's start painting the sky in. And I'm going to put out some Prussian blue and some black and some white. And we're going to use these colors in the sky. Alright, so first thing I want to do is, I'm going to grab a bigger brush here. I'm going to grab a 20. It's not quite a 3/4 inch brush, but you could grab a 3/4 inch. That would be fine. I'm going to mix my, well, first I think I'll paint my moon in. I'm just going to paint it in with white. Now, we're going to have to do a couple coats on the sky. I'm not going to worry too much about being exact with my moon, because I'm going to have to come out and paint white around my moon, and so I'll come back in and add my line back in here as I need it. So I'm going to get my white on there first, and then just wipe the excess paint off and grab some blue, a little bit of black. I think I'll put a little tiny bit of white in there, and this is going to make a blue-gray color. A little bit more blue and black in there. I probably could have kept all of the paint that was in, the white paint that was in my brush there. It would have been just fine. So we're going to start painting in the sky. And I'm just going to mix the color as I go here. We're doing the Prussian blue and the black, a little bit of white, probably 2 Prussian blue, 1 black, and a touch of white. Ah, there we go. That's a nice color. Maybe just a tiny bit more white. Not quite so dark. And come right up to that moon, go along my hill line here. And get right up to that hill line. And we're going to paint on each side of the moon. This to be a little, ooh, that might be way too light because I grabbed a lot of white paint there. This one's got a little bit more gray on this side because I grabbed a lot of black, but that's okay. So I'm going to go up pretty close to that moon right there. Now with that gray under here, we may not have to paint it in twice. We'll see. Depends on how good our coverage is here. Okay, I want to quickly rinse my brush. And get the excess moisture out and grab some white. And we're going to go back in here to our moon. Start coming out a little bit into that blue. It's ideal if your blue is still a little wet, but if it's not, mine's not super wet, I'm just going to go over here and grab some. And we're going to go around our moon and kind of lighten the sky a little bit. Tiny bit of water here. And just go around it. You don't have to make your moon as big as I made mine, but I wanted a nice big moon up here. A little bit. Keep my finger out of the wet paint. A little bit more white. This just kind of gives it the little glow of the moon. We'll come back in and paint our moon white. And then I'm going to grab that mix. I added a little water to it. Oop, a little bit more blue in there. And come back in here and just kind of blend that. So this is really a wet on wet kind of painting. A little bit more of that blue in there. We're going to be putting clouds in here, so you don't have to worry too much about how the sky actually looks, because our clouds will take care of all of that. Alright, we got kind of a little glow of our moon in there. I'm going to let that dry because I need to put my line drawing for my moon back in there and paint it back with white. So we're going to move down here, and I might go to a smaller brush just for a moment. Keep that one handy. I'll go to a little bit smaller. This one is a 16. I'm going to take my blue and my black and make a really dark color. That's going to go back here on the hills. black mixed together. Makes a really, really dark blue. I have to get my easel out, paint this. Okay. Again, you don't have to be perfect with the size of your heel back here. Just get it on there. We're also going to put this over here on this side. Got this little heel back here. And we'll need 2 coats on there. And then down here we're going to add Prussian blue and some white, mostly Prussian blue. We don't want it to be the same color as the sky, so we want to make sure it's a blue-black, but not as dark as our heel here. So we'll still have a little black in there. I just want it to be a different color than our sky. I think this is where I could go to my bigger brush, back to my bigger brush. I'll get this first coat in with this brush. Just blue and black mixed together. Not as much black as we put over there. And if it varies in color, much more interesting that way, so that's why I like to brush mix. Go up to our fence post. Again, we'll need 2 coats on here. It's going to look very messy and choppy, and that's okay. My original line drawing, I think, was for a 9 by 12. So I just drew this on here by hand, based from my line drawing. So I'm not worried about getting it on my fence post, really. So a little bit of blue showing down here. This fence post is kind of dropped down right here. It's a broken fence. Alright, there's first coats. We got to get all that dry and get second coats on there. And we're not going to work on the fence quite yet. I want to get the sky and the grasses all painted in before we put first coats on our fence. Okay, my first coat is dry, so I'm going to grab some white. I've put my moon shape back on here. Add a little bit of moisture to this. This is very thick paint here. I'm going to go right up to the line. But I am going to come out past it for a little bit of a glow. I just want to get the basic shape of the moon put in here. Make sure that our moon is nice and bright. I've got some blue in my brush here. We're going to be putting some blue on the bottom part of our moon here in a minute. Okay, so now I want to go out past the moon, so I'm going to thin some white with some water and come in here and go around the moon. And now I can still see my line, and I put paint over it now, so I can't really erase that line now that I put paint on it. But I can come out and put a little bit more white on it and cover it up as best I can. And then take that thin white and we're going around. And then I'm going to pick up blue and bring that in here. That glow around the moon to be pretty nice. Pick up a little bit of blue and we'll bring that in here. I've still got white in my brush, so it's keeping it lighter. And then back to that little bit of blue-black. This also could be painted in with a sponge. I think with a sponge it would be much easier. I'm on a much bigger area than I did my original one in, so we just want to get this glow going on here. That little bit of black-blue mix. Wipe my brush off, grab the white, and I'll work it into that blue a little bit, and that's going to help. Just kind of smooth it all out. A little bit more white here. Okay, not black. Not black. We don't want black, not next to the moon, just white. Wipe my brush off so I can just, that was a pretty wet amount of white. It wasn't overly, I gotta get that dark color out of my brush. Now, if your paint is starting to dry and it's starting to lift a little bit, just get out of it. I'm going to brighten back up the top here, and then we're going to put a little bit of blue on the bottom of the moon. So I'm just going to grab a little corner of blue on my brush, because I want it to blend with my white. A little bit of blue shadow on the bottom of my moon. Try and keep the shape of your moon right there. I've got a bright glow going out there, maybe just a tad brighter than what I want. Here. Just work that glow around your moon until you're happy with it, is what I would say. Make this a little bit more on the blue side here because I don't want it to be... I want it to be bright, but I want the moon to stand out. Okay, especially that blue on the moon. I think I'm completely messing up the shape of my moon here. It's kind of hard to keep a circle a circle. Just keep working with it. I feel like I'm overworking mine. So I think that's good enough. I'm not gonna do any more because once we put the clouds on there and our little haunted house that we're putting on, it's not even gonna be an issue here. So I think that's good enough. Just work on the glow around your moon. So you're taking the background colors and working them to the moon, taking the moon colors and working them out and just blending them so they get this nice little glow. It's really much easier than I just showed you how to do it. I was really struggling with that, but I just kept working with it. And like I said, if your brush is too wet, you're going to lift paint, or if your paint is starting to dry and you keep going over it, you're going to lift paint. So you have to realize that you may have to stop, let it dry, and then come back with a second coat. All right, I'm going to go back to my dark areas here, which is that blue and black mix. Make my really dark areas right here. I'm going to bring this down a little bit and give it a little bit of not quite so straight stuff going on there. Okay, let's go over and do this one. I've got my really big brush, so go to a brush that works best for you. I might want to bring this up a little bit. Okay, so I've got my two little hill areas, so I'm going to go back and add more blue to my brush. And we'll put our second coat on our grass areas. There's not a whole lot of colors to this project, which makes it a nice, fun Halloween project. You can be as creative with the colors as you would like. So just have fun with it. You know, if you want more oranges and browns and stuff in yours, go for it. Mostly blue. We're going to come back and dry brush some lighter color in here. Actually, I think I might grab a tiny bit of the white and just go ahead and make some lighter colors in here. So I got my darker colors up next to the hill. And I'll make a little bit of lighter color, kind of streak it in through here. Just kind of push that brush around and blend it out. It gives you a varying colors here, which makes it really nice. A little bit of moisture in my brush. Picked up a little bit more white. And back here, this house is going to sit, so we're not really going to see much back here. I just want a little bit more of that lighter blue in there, so just a tiny bit of white. That's all it took. Okay. All right, so down here, we're going to go down here, maybe add a tiny bit of white in there, grab my blue, darker color, and we can create this area in here. Need some darker color. Maybe not quite that dark. Using a lot more Prussian blue than I thought I would on this project, but well, let's just keep going. We do have to do a little bit of dry brushing down in on these blue sections. More of that blue color down here. This will be darker down here, so a little bit of black in there. Darken that. Of course, this is going to be dark here. Okay. So that's kind of our grassy areas. We have to let that dry a little bit. We're going to dry brush some other colors onto it. But let's go ahead and put a base coat onto our fence and get it painted in. I'm going to stay with my bigger brush here. And we're going to put, well, let's see, what color do I want? I might mix a couple of colors here. That's cocoa, and raw sienna is the other color I want to put out. So let's see how these work together. Undercoating on our fence. I want to add a little bit of burnt umber in here. Alright, let me grab some burnt umber out. I like that color, but I think it needs a little bit of brown in it. I think we'll do a 1-to-1 mix. So 1 raw sienna, 1 cocoa, 1 burnt umber. And I think that'll be a good mix. Get your fence posts shaped any way that you want them to be. They don't have to be perfectly straight either. I mean, it's probably best if they're not perfectly straight. Makes it more interesting. One of each color. The reason I hand drew this fence, because I really wanted it to be irregular on the edges. This post looks like I made it way too big. So I might be cutting this fence post down a little bit. So it needs to go way up here. So I have to bring my blue down and make a fence post here. Or a crossbar, I guess I should say. Might make it a little bit wider than that, but I'm going to grab a much smaller brush here. Knocking the paint silver everywhere. Let's see. I might try this angle brush. Take this brown. I want to make this just a little bit wider. And grab that blue mix. Blue, black. Bring it down this edge. Touch up here. Make sure all my background is covered. Okay. Alright, get your fence dry. Now we're going to put a second coat on our fence. Then we can add, well, let's see, we'll finish out the fence. We might go ahead and add the house and the tree. We'll definitely need to add the clouds back in here. So we'll get the rest of our line drawing on. And after we get our fence base coated in, except for the cat. We're not going to add the cat on here yet. Just the clouds, the house, the tree. Those are the only details we're going to add on here. Alright, I've got my house and kind of an area where I want to put my tree, and then I just hand drew my clouds on there. Your clouds can be kind of shaped any way that you want them to be, but we're going to paint those in first, and we're going to use that blue and black mix. And use whatever size brush that works for you. I'm going to use this angled brush because it's sharp at the tip, and I can get the tip going into the moon is the most pointed area. A little bit more wiggle here on the top. We do not want straight edges. We want wavy and movement. I'm just going to fill it in. Okay. Just using the blue and the black. Will probably vary in color depending on how much color you add into your mix. And you can start with a round brush here if you want, or go to a much smaller brush than what I've got. I've got a very large brush here. Of course, I'm painting on a little bit bigger surface, so if you're painting on something smaller, you'll definitely want to go with a smaller brush. Okay, go to the next one. It's okay if the colors vary a little bit. They don't have to be exactly the same. I do want this area to be thin at the very tip. We'll put a second coat on here. Okay. So there's our clouds on that side. A little bit more blue in the mix here. Let's see if I can see where I drew my line here. All the way to the edge there. This one's a little bit smaller, so I'm going to really pay attention to the shape here. Okay, this looks so cool. Alright, let's do this last one down here. It's a long tip. Again, if you're doing a smaller piece, you'll definitely want to go with a smaller brush than what I've got here. And sometimes I just pick up the blue, sometimes I pick up the blue and the black. So my clouds can kind of vary in their color. They don't all have to be the exact same color. kind of see through them a little bit here and there. I kind of like that, so I think I'm just going to do the one coat on here and go with that and clean up an edge here. I think overall I like that because we have to lighten the tips of them and kind of drag some paint along the tip of them. So let me get a smaller brush. This might be too small, but we'll give it a shot. I'm going to take my blue and my white and mix them together. Get this light blue color. And we're going to dry brush this color onto the tip of our clouds. In there. I'm not covering up the whole thing, we're just kind of dragging it into the clouds a little bit. Just dry brushing. I'm just using a round brush, but you can use whatever brush works best for you, okay? However far you want to go into that cloud. Much moisture. Don't want a ton of moisture when you're dry brushing, but you do need just a little bit. So just let the brush very gently drag over the surface, and it just leaves some light paint on there. Okay, so we got some dry brushing on there. I'll rinse the brush, and then we're going to take our white. You may want to go to a detail liner for this. And we're going to outline the tips. With white. This is where if you've lost that really fine point on the tip of your cloud, you can get it back on very easily. Because these do kind of have long little tips in there. Go back over this one. You will probably have to do it twice, so get that to show up a little bit. So just a little white outline. I haven't done this side on this one yet. So I think I'll do all my first outlines and then come back and do a second outline. And I'm just going to take it to where, basically where the dry brushing part ends. Okay, go over here and do these, and then I'll go back and do a second layer. Oh, I'm gonna have you on camera here. Probably like to see what I'm doing, right? Happens every time I zoom in, especially when I'm working on a larger piece. I tend to always get out of camera shot, so sorry about that. If I'd just been listening, I probably could have heard y'all yelling, "You're out of camera shot!" Okay, go back around here and do a second quick layer. I already did that side on that one. I'm using a round brush, a 2 round, I think, yeah. And I'm staying up on the very tip of this brush. I'm not giving it any pressure at all. Just have my paint a nice flowing consistency where it's not so thin that it fades away, but that it will flow off of the tip of the brush fairly easily and give us that nice bright white outline. Just a second layer here. Clouds are pretty easy. Okay, the clouds are done. Not a lot to them. Okay, let's grab a brush to paint in our house. So let's see what size I want to get for this. I don't want to get anything too awful big that will spread my paint out too far, but I also don't want to have to work incredibly hard for it. So we're going to mix black and white and get a medium to dark gray. And we're just going to paint the shape in. We're not going to worry about the lines that detail anything. We'll come back and add those. Just painting in the shape. Try and cover up your graphite lines if you can. We'll just paint it all in and come back in and add those lines back in if we need them, or we can just be creative and create our house to look the way that we want it to look. put 2 coats on here so we can smooth everything out. You can put any shape of house you want on here, so don't feel like you have to do the exact shape that I am doing. Okay, we don't want it, I might make it just a little bit darker than this on my second coat, because I do want to be able to shade with some black on here, but I'm also going to add a lighter gray highlight, so I would say to get it just a little bit darker on your second coat than I've got here. So I need to let that dry a little bit. And while it's drying, we can add a, let's see, maybe a base onto our tree. I'll get our tree a little bit of a kind of shape to it. And it's going to be pretty dark. It's going to be a really, really dark gray, not quite black, but really dark. And I want it to be a little bit closer to the house here. A little more black in the mix. So I'll probably go in and erase that line there. It's a substantial tree right here. And then I'm going to go up and bring in a branch up here. Less pressure on the brush. It doesn't have to go all the way up into that cloud if you don't want it to. You just decide how you want your tree to look. And then we're going to put a thicker one over here. And then we're going to create some smaller branches coming off of it. So we just want a nice big tree. Okay. I'm going to grab my small brush back and put some branches on that. And just make them however you want them to be. A little bit more water in my brush. I'm going to go back and erase some of those lines on there. You can put bats flying around in your sky if you would like. Just a few branches on there. We don't have to get excessive. But make them interesting. That line out there is a graphite line. I'll erase that. So is this one down here. I'll be erasing that. Alright, let's put some branches on this one. And I think I'm going to have one that comes kind of bent this direction. Some little branches coming off of it. Why not? It's my tree. You know, when you're making branches, you're making either V's or Y's, however it looks to you. Let me look at it, see if I want to add maybe one more branch right through here. Okay, that looks like a pretty good tree. I might have to make that a little bit darker, more on the black side. Erase these graphite lines that I did not use. So they are not distracting. Make sure your tree's dry before you do that. But yes, that guy needs to be a little bit darker, more similar to the clouds, but although the clouds are blue-black, I want this to be lean more towards just straight black. All right, I'm going to put a second layer on my house here, and we're going to do a darker gray. Ooh, okay, that's almost black. I want darker, but not black. Add some black in here for shading later. I want to be able to see it. Oops. So maybe just a tiny bit more of that white in there. Not very, although it doesn't have to be straight. I do want it to be okay. A little bit darker. Just a second little quick coat in here. Just a little bit too dark there. A little bit more here. I might have got that a little too dark. Yep, definitely gonna have to be lighter. I tell you what, I'm just having a hard time getting my mixes the way I want them today. Maybe it's not my painting day. going to have to be light enough so that when I put a shading of black on here, it's going to show. If I get it too dark, that black is not going to show up. Alright, that looks better. Alright, let's go darker for our tree. Just a tad darker. Just on some of the thicker branches, the thinner ones you don't have to worry so much about. But we do want the color of the tree to be different from the color of the house. So that's pretty important right there. Alright, we're going to get this dry and work on our grassy areas and detail out our house. Then work on our fence here. Okay, I'm going to take some of the gray that I painted this house in with and a little bit more white in the mix there. We're going to streak this onto our tree, give it some highlights. Okay, just a little bit on there. We don't need to do a lot. Okay, I'm going to stay with this brush and I'm going to make a really light gray color. And this is where you can put your shapes, your lines back on your house if that's helpful. Just put your house back on here and draw your lines. I might do that for you just so you can see where I'm going. Okay, I put my lines on there for you. And we're going to outline with a lighter gray our house. So if you can't see it like I couldn't see that, I'm going to add more white. So we're just going to outline every detail. Should be straight, but I made it crooked, so I'll just go with it. The entire house gets outlined, okay? Lines do not have to be perfect. This is an old house, so it can be crooked and wobbly and I'm not sure I did that line on my original, but it's there now. Okay, we'll put a little doorknob on her door. Actually, I didn't put a doorknob on my original one, but I did on this one, so we'll just go with it. Alright, so we're outlined. We've got some details on our tree. So let's do a little shading on our house with some black. Okay, so let's go underneath this area. I think I did a little bit up here. I'm not going to worry if I get on my light gray color, not a big deal. Wherever you want some shadow, just kind of put it on there. There'll be no right or wrong here. Brush is a little splayed out, so it's really leaving some wide areas in here, but that's okay. It's a haunted house. We don't need to see. Well, I'm calling it a haunted house. Whether it is or not, I don't know. I made it pretty darn messy, but I think overall it doesn't look too bad. Maybe darken a couple places that might need it. Just give it a little bit more. This gives it a little bit more texture and roughness, I think, which is what I want in my little haunted house here. Put a little bit on the door here. Okay. think on my outline here at the bottom, I'm going to put a little bit of black on here because we don't really need the ground outline, I guess. Let me mix a little blue in there with that. We're going to put a shadow under this anyway. So we'll grab a little black and go ahead and create a little bit of shadow from our house. And we'll bring it kind of straight out from it. Just putting some black out here. I'm also going to have some shadow from our tree. Just kind of give it a little bit of something something. We've got to get some lighter color in there too. Some highlights, so we may have to come back and darken those areas. So let's put some highlight, which is going to be our blue, a little bit of white. I'll wipe the brush off, and I'm going to dry brush this in our grassy areas. That's why we may have to come back and do our black. This is glow from the moon. Load your brush, wipe it off because we're just dry brushing. Down here, maybe not so much. Okay. I want to put a little bit on top of the hill back here. And a little bit here. This is glow of the moon. We're not adding grassy details or anything like that. We're just adding highlight. Then get a little bit more white in your brush. Wipe it off, and we're going to add some more brighter dry brush areas out here because this area is in the shadow more. A little bit in here. Okay, I'm going to get most of that paint out because I want to get the black and blue mix. And put a little bit of that in here. Just a little dry brush. Break up some areas. Okay, then we'll go back to our black and work those shadows back. Work some shadows back in. Kind of from our house and from our tree. That. There we go. Okay. I think that's got some good stuff going on. I think we'll still add a little bit of this black here and there. Okay, That looks pretty good for our shadows. Okay, we're gonna work on our fence nest. I see some place on my house I need to fix. Right here, this roof line has to come out past. Okay, I think that finishes all the background stuff back there. So we're going to work on the fence so we can add our cat. Alright, we're going to do an equal mix of cocoa, raw sienna, and white. And we're going to start creating some wood grain in our fence post and some little knots. I'm also going to do an edge up here. On the top. One. Not all wood grain has to be the same. Okay, it's a 1, 1, and 1 mix. Okay, this one's going to have a thick edge along the side. I'm going to take it up here. On top of this one. Top of this one. One. Alright, we got some good wood grain going over here, and you can go over anything that you feel like has faded back in there too awful much. And brighten up anything that you would like to see a little bit brighter. Okay, because that is our brightest areas on our wood. Okay, we've got our edges. They look pretty good. Okay. So now I think we want to add a little bit of burnt umber. I think we'll do burnt umber and black mixed together. Just a touch of black to darken up that brown, make it a dirty brown. And we're going to put some of this in here on this top edge. Again, this is going to be kind of loose, and we're just adding another layer of some wood grain stuff going on here. Wherever you want them. I'm going to put a little bit into my knots to give the knots a little bit more character. A little bit along this top edge. You can use a detail liner brush. I'm just using a 2-round, staying up on the tip. Nice flowy consistency to my paint. Not going to do this whole line, this edge. I'm just going to do a hit and miss on it, kind of. I need to put a highlight on these outside edges. I forgot to do that. So I'll go back and do that after I finish my dark color here. Thin my paint with a little bit of water. Okay, let me do that lighter edge. Maybe not quite as light. Add a little bit more of the raw sienna and the. Just gonna loosely put it down the edge here. I don't want a thick line like I did over there, just a little bit so I can tell where this edge is. Just a little dry brushing. And we'll do this one as well. Okay. Alright, now we can do some shading, highlighting, well actually shading, washes, and a little bit of highlighting. Okay, so we're going to shade with that brown black mix. And we're going to do it here. A little bit more black in there. dark shadow, mostly black. Just kind of wiggle it out from the edge, along this edge. We'll go along the bottom as well. But for now, we'll just do the edges. I may have to repeat this, it just depends on how it looks when it's dry. Alright, we're going to put some of this color on the bottom down here, on this outer edge, because it kind of goes around the container here. Along the bottom of our crossbars, very kind of choppily. Make sure your color that you put on for the shading is dry. Well, that one wasn't quite dry, so I just removed some of it. Try and get some of it back on there. Go down to this bottom one here. We are going to drag a little bit of this into the posts, but for now we're just kind of concentrating on shadows. Okay, I'm going to take this mix. This is burnt umber and a little bit of black. Lean it more towards the burnt umber edge. Add a little bit of water. And we'll kind of dry brush this on our post. It's okay if you get some on the top edges where the light color is as well. That's going to give a little bit more interest. Really going to dirty them up. Take your fingers and kind of smear it in there if you need to. You want that brighter edge, but it doesn't have to be incredibly bold. So this will help take it down a little bit, but we'll still have it. It'll still be lighter than everything else. Okay, one color we haven't used on this one color that we haven't used that I want to use on my fence, I think, is burnt sienna. Now you can use this within the fence anywhere that you want. I just want some touches of it in the fence here and there. Kind of gives it that orange Halloween feel. So just get a little bit on your brush and wherever you want to put it, just put it in there, and then, you know, you can smooth it out and rough it up with your fingers. Might come back and do a little bit of my shadowing a little bit darker. I just thought this would make the fence look a little more Halloween-y. Oops, don't want it out there. Okay, that was a little bit of the burnt sienna. And then I'm going to check my shading here. That brown-black mix, I feel like right here needs to be a little darker. Didn't put any here at all. Get some there. Okay, wherever I feel like my shadow is not quite dark enough, so I'm repeating most of them. Bring a little bit more of this up onto the posts. Really dirty these babies up. They're old and worn. And I see on that edge I need to just dirty that a little bit. That's looking pretty good for my fence. I like it. You can add a tiny little bit of white and let's go with some cocoa. Just a tiny bit for a bright highlight on maybe a couple of edges where that moon glow is hitting it. You could even add a little bit of blue in there to give it a little bit of a blue tint. A little bit of some moon glow kissing our fence, but not a lot. Don't overdo it. Right there our cat's going to be, so I'm going to put some out here. Maybe just a tiny bit more white in that. Now I might put a little bit here because I can't remember where our cat touches this, but maybe a little bit. Okay, that finishes the fence. I think it looks pretty good. I like it. So we're going to put our cat line drawing on next. Okay, my cat's on. We're going to paint the cat in with black. So I don't know if it will take one or two coats to cover your cat, so and I'm kind of giving a little bit of character to my tail here. It didn't curl like that on the line drawing. I just thought I'd give it a little curl. I'll probably put 2 coats just to make sure it's nice and smooth. The second coat will be more of a wash. Paint on my brush there. A little bit tinier of a brush here. Get a point on there. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and give a quick little washy coat for a second coat. Okay, this is where you could use a little bit of yellow if you want to for the eye, or you can just paint it in white, or you could just leave the eye off completely. So I'm going to mix some white and yellow together, and I think I need a smaller brush for this. Whatever shape of eye you want this cat to have is fine. I did like a half circle, but you could do paint flow off my brush would be amazing. You could do like a almond shape. We'll just do that. If you get it too big, you can come back with your black and make it smaller. Okay, let's take some white and let me get some fresh Prussian blue out. And we're going to make a light blue. And we're going to dry brush on our cat. So make the ears. You could go with a bigger brush than what I'm using. I'm just using a round brush, a 4, I believe. Yeah, 4. Any places where you're dry brushing you don't like it, you come back with your black and go over it and take some of it out. I probably will take a little bit of mine. Down a little bit. We're going to come along the chest down here. And the front of the legs. Let's do some here. So just put this wherever you want it, because we're going to come back in with the black and take it down a little bit. And then we'll come in with some white and add a few bright areas on our cat. So any areas you don't like, bring your black in there and settle them down, make them a little smaller, give them a little streak inside where you have the area so that we can kind of break it up just a little bit. Okay, not too much, but enough that it just gives it that little bit. I'm going to grab my smaller round and paint the eye in with just yellow now. Let's go with just some white. I'm going to go to my smaller round here. Oops. Add a bright little highlight. I'm going to put some whiskers on our cat here in a minute. This is just white, making our brightest little highlights on our cat. We do have to put a shadow underneath our cat a little bit here. Back over any highlight areas that you want to brighten. Okay, let's mix a little bit of black with that white. And I'm going to make some whiskers on here. Some whiskers. Okay, let's take our black and put a pupil in the eye. Okay, and then a little bit of shadow underneath our cat. Maybe a little shadow onto the lower part down here. Just a touch of a shadow. Maybe, well, it's kind of behind that fence post, so I'm not going to worry about putting a shadow there, but I think that's pretty good for a shadow from our cat. And there we go. I think that's going to be a done project. Super, super cute. We'll put it, I'm going to varnish it, then we'll put it back in our tray, and we will all screw it all back down. And what a cute Halloween tray. I think it is super, super cute, and I love it. You can add as much detail to this as you want, because it's such a fun design. So I hope you guys have enjoyed painting this one with me. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Like, share, and comment. Please subscribe. I appreciate you all. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.